Well, one of the stats I mentioned earlier in the show was that a traumatic brain injury is the leading killer and disabler of Canadians under the age of 40. And the statistics go on and on about brain injury and how it affects the lives of Canadians and Torontonians, of course. So we've got a great event coming up. We're going to tell you about you can support people with brain injuries. The committee member from BIST, Obaya, Mix and Mingle, Ruth Fernandez, and the chair of BIST Obaya charity event, Greg Neinstein. Good to have you both here.
Thanks for having us here this
Thanks
morning.
for having us.
BIST is Brain Injury Society of Toronto, is that right? And
Yep.
then the other one is the Ontario Brain Injury Association.
Exactly.
Okay, what is it? What is BIST?
Well, BIST is the local chapter of the Ontario Brain Injury Association. So there are several chapters, 26 chapters all across Ontario. And BIST is the Toronto chapter, and these chapters are aimed at helping survivors of brain injuries find peer support groups, resources, and help them get integrated back into the community after they've received a head injury.
And we are, that was just one statistic I gave. The numbers on brain injuries are shocking, right?
18,000 Ontarians will suffer a brain injury.
And that means, you know,
in 1 year.
Every hour, 6 Canadians are afflicted with a brain injury. And those stats are quite high when you consider, you know, all diseases in all sort of fields. It happens to, you know, people that we know. 1 in 10 people that you know will suffer a brain injury this year. So it's it's a big, huge problem in our society.
And for kids especially, right?
Absolutely. It's so important that they wear a helmet, we know, when they're practicing sports, and that they're taking all precautions to be safe.
So one of the things that BIST in Obaya does is help with awareness, because there is not enough awareness. And unfortunately, BIST is in Obaya, they've just been started in the last 10, 15 years. And it's probably shocking when you hear the numbers and the lack of information people have about head injuries, considering all the other amazing fundraisers that we see across Ontario. And when you see the numbers of head injuries, it's shocking that there is not much awareness about this disease.
And a head injury can be so debilitating, and it could affect you for the rest of your life.
And it often does. It often does. You know, usually patients will present with communication disabilities, and you know, it's not always very clear if you have a brain injury. So
right, you break an arm, it's easy to see.
Exactly.
But somebody might be stumbling with their words. You might not put two and two together.
Yeah, you don't often pick up on that unless you know the person for a really long time, and you sort of should watch out for mood swings, and you know, maybe they're not communicating properly, and things that you didn't bother them before are sort of irritating to them now. So those are all sort of things that, you know, people might look out for.
And what about children? If your child falls off the bike, they brush themselves off, the crying stops, you think everything's fine, what should we be looking out for?
It's so difficult to identify brain injuries, especially in children, because they're not able to articulate what they're feeling. So word finding, problems with sleeping, problems with being able to eat, and appetite. It's so difficult that I don't think there's any harm in finding early on in seeking medical attention.
Just in case.
Just in case, because the downside is huge. And people with brain injuries, it usually takes, within the first year, is the most productive in getting rehabilitation. So if you don't identify this within the first year, you're losing out on an ability for your brain, which is a muscle, to start rehabilitating itself.
Right.
Really? So the brain is capable of regenerating some of those injured areas?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, I was just at a talk with Dr. Tatter, and he says automatically if, you know, your child has had a concussion or he's hit his head, we absolutely know for sure as a fact that it is a brain injury. So, you know, if you knock your head, you know, don't just disregard it, you know, look into it a little bit more further and see if there's a way to start rehabilitating.
Are we well set up here in Toronto for rehabilitation services?
There's a lot of resources, but there's a lot of people not getting identified. And even the resources we do have are also limited. So the biggest thing about BIST and Obaya is the fact that our OHIP system is great. People do have access to get assistance. The problem is once you finish that maximum medical recovery and you're done with your OT, your occupational therapist, or your physiotherapist, or your speech therapist, you go back in the community, and now how do you get integrated? How do people identify you with a brain injury? Because it's really the hidden disease, because you can walk into a room and no one sees that you have an injury. You can see someone that's a paraplegic, you can see an amputee, but it's very difficult for people to relate and understand how to respond to someone with a head injury.
Getting back into work, all of those challenges. So we've got this terrific event. Actually, the whole month of June has been set aside as brain injury awareness, which is great. So what are some of the things coming up?
Yeah. So we've been working on the Mix and Mingle, which is an event that OBI and BIST have co-produced in the last 7 years. Greg Neinstein has been the chair of the event for the last 3 years. And, you know, we bring out people from the healthcare industry and care, service providers that they're there to mingle and exchange ideas and find ways to collaborate and create awareness about this really important issue.
Right. So one of them, of course, is June 14th.
June 14th.
That's us.
So we have a great event, June 14th. It's at Steam Whistle Brewery, which is a fantastic venue, and we have
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Great live music. Soul Stew, which is a longtime Toronto jazz band, is going to be playing. We've already raised before the event $100,000, which is fantastic.
Yes.
And that's simply from ticket sales and sponsorships, and we hope to continue to increase the awareness and provide assistance to survivors of brain injuries.
So we can get tickets for that online, right, at your website?
Yeah, you definitely visit our website. The event is over 90% sold, but there's still some tickets available. So I encourage the viewers to join us that evening. And there's going to be great food. We also have amazing oysters, which is sort of a symbol for the brain and the topic that we're sort of talking about. And great food, great music.
It's a great time.
It's
Our
a
goal
lot
is
of fun.
to just thank everyone who's involved in the community, survivors, people that work in the community.
And give back.
And just have a great opportunity to network and have a fantastic event.
After that, on June 20th, big event at Nathan Phillips Square, right?
Yep.
That's right. Every year there's an event at Nathan Phillips Square during the day for Brain Injury Awareness Week. There'll be speakers there. I think Ben Mulroney will be speaking this year and talking about brain injury awareness. And that's the biggest thing that we are really striving to achieve, is help people understand how prominent this problem is in our society.
Not genetically related,
Right.
you know, this just happens to you. That's right.
Yeah. It can happen to anyone at any one given moment, you know.
1 in 26 Canadians suffer some type of brain injury. And I don't think anyone appreciates the volume of that.
Do either of you have a personal connection to someone with a brain injury?
Well, I assist people with brain injuries all the time. So I'm a lawyer, and what I really do is I'm a crisis manager and helping manage people once they do have an injury. Where's the guidebook on what to do? So I assist people in finding rehabilitation options, vocational options, all types of support in order to get back into some sort of meaningful day event.
One of the things that the event will fund after it's over is a guidebook. BIS is producing a guidebook for people with brain injuries and to help them navigate the world post a head injury.
Because it's a whole different world, and your website is fantastic. Yeah. So go to the website, get lots of information there, plus your tickets to the Mix and Mingle. Yes. BIST.ca. And now here's Maya with your community events. Great information.